Hey everyone, welcome to yet another Facebook Live. I'm your host Jess.
And I'm your host Lauren.
And today we have a heavy hitting topic. We are going to be talking all about how to take and ace your exams online. Lots of great content, lots of great tips and tricks. But before we get into that, Lauren's going to give us all that good Facebook Live etiquette.
Thanks, Jess. So like Jess mentioned, this is going to be a great topic today. We picked this topic because we get so many questions about how exams work at Penn Foster. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to drop them in the comments, or we might just end up answering them today because our agenda is based on our FAQs that we get from all of you. Of course, we just ask that you don't leave any personal information in the comments section. The comments are public, so you just don't want other people seeing your student ID or your phone number, email. Just much better if you send us a direct message to our Facebook page, or you can give us a call. The number for student services is 1-888-427-1000. And if you're not a Penn Foster student yet, but it's something that you're considering, you could, of course, call admissions anytime at 1-888-427-6500. So with all of that out of the way, we want to let you know that today we'll be covering how to take a test in online school, how Penn Foster exams work, how grades work at Penn Foster, what happens if you fail an exam, and how to be a really successful test taker. So diving right into it, Jess, I will ask you the first question, which is, how do you take a test in online school?
So obviously you hear online school, you know everything's going to be a little bit different than your standard in-person school. But taking tests is actually pretty straightforward in online school. There's no deadlines and no set exam dates, which is one of the best parts about the exams online, is that you take them when you're ready. And the tests follow each lesson you take, and you take the test before you move on to the next lesson. So, you know, if you need a little bit more time with a specific lesson before that test, you think you need to, study a little bit more, you can take as much time as you need. Or if you really understand a subject and you're ready to fly through it, you can go ahead and take it whenever you're ready. On top of that, there are a couple different types of exams, though, or assignments that you can run into. So, Lauren, do you want to give us a little bit of background on some of the tests and maybe tell us a little bit about the multiple choice tests?
Sure. So at Penn Foster, like Jess mentioned, there are a few different ways that exams can work. It might be multiple choice, proctored exams, papers, and projects. Not every program has every type of exam or assignment, so it really depends on what you're studying. Again, if you want to know more, feel free to give student services a call and they could kind of explain it for your program specifically. But all programs do have multiple choice exams, so we'll cover that one first. Multiple choice exams at Penn Foster follow each lesson in a class and are short, usually around 30 questions. These exams are meant to test your knowledge of what you learned in that particular lesson. Our multiple choice exams at Penn Foster are open book and open note, which is pretty great. So that means that if you get stuck on a question, you can reference your materials. It's not considered cheating, which is awesome. But if you've ever taken an open book, open note exam before, you do still have to study, and you have to be a good note taker. You have to have some understanding of what you've learned. So just keep that in mind. It's not totally, you're off the hook from actually paying attention. You do have to do that. You do have to study. And they do help your note taking skills. So that's kind of a bonus perk. Multiple choice exams at Penn Foster are graded immediately. So once you submit your answers, you'll be taken to a page to confirm your answers. Make sure that you do take the time to review what you've selected before hitting that submit button, because you just want to make sure that you didn't accidentally hit something that you didn't mean to, and you're going to get points taken away for a simple error. But once you've submitted your tests, you'll see your grade. So that's pretty awesome.
I didn't realize that you get to review your answers before you submit them. That's actually a really nice obviously if you were taking a test in person, you could look at your answers really quick before you hand your test in. But online, it's not completely done until you hit that button kind of twice, because you finish and then you review and then you finish again. So that's actually kind of nice.
It is nice. I've definitely made mistakes before, selecting the wrong thing on tests, or just like, I don't know, not reading the question all the way and picking the wrong thing. So it's kind of nice that there's like this little extra checkpoint to make sure, where you can make sure that you're confident in what you're submitting. Now, the next type of exams I know are the ones that we get a lot of questions about. So we'll dive right in there. Jess, can you tell us about proctored exams?
Absolutely. So that's obviously a proctored exam is something that a lot of people haven't heard of. So we're going to give you all the info right here, right now. Proctored exams are timed, monitored tests that can be a mix of multiple choice, short answer, and short essay questions to test what you've learned throughout the class. So basically, the difference there is, number one, it's not just going to be multiple choice. It's going to have some other kind of questions, and they are monitored. Proctored exams aren't part of every program. They're usually taken in college or in the undergraduate certificate program. So if you're in our high school program, you probably won't have to worry about these, but just keep in mind that they are parts of different programs. And like Lauren said before, if you want to be sure, if you will have these kind of tests before you start a program, just give Student Services a call and they can help you out. Proctored exams are sort of like a final exam for your classes. So if you've ever taken a final, you can kind of compare it to that. And not every class in your program will require you to take a proctored exams, only certain ones. Proctored exams are not taken right in your student portal like the multiple choice exams. You actually have two different ways you can take them, online or in person. If you choose the in-person option, you must choose someone to act as your proctor. Your proctor must have at least an associate's degree in any subject, so it doesn't have to be in the program or in the field that you are going to go into. They can't live with you. They can't be a relative or a direct supervisor. So keep those things in mind when you do get to a proctored exam. If you choose to do the in-person option, keep in mind those specifics before you pick your proctor. Sorry, guys. These are the beauties of live recording, is that my dog keeps jumping in. If you choose to take the exam online, though, you'll go through a third-party proctor company that we use that will monitor your test taking. Generally, you'll need to have a driver's license or a state ID handy to prove your identity and to take the exam in a room with no noise and no distractions. So make sure you have that set up too if you decide to take the proctored exam in the online version. The benefit of the online proctor is the grading process is quite a bit faster. You don't have to mail in your exam and wait for us to receive it, and then it's queued up for grading. So if you do choose to do it in person, that it might take a little bit longer to get your results back, whereas the online version of the proctored exam, you'll get your results back a little bit faster. Some proctored exams are open book, so you can reference your notes and study materials, but many are not. So you'll want to prepare as much as you can for them. And that means studying well ahead of time, reviewing your notes, and making sure that you have all of your study materials right up here, and you can do it all without having to look at your notes or your book. So that was obviously a lot of information. If you guys have any other questions about the proctored exam that we did not answer, drop them in the comments below, or again, give Student Services a call or send us a DM. We will do our best to give you some help. Now, we did multiple choice, we did proctored exams. Something that you've probably experienced at some point in your education is papers that you might have to write. So Lauren, do you want to give us a little bit more background on papers and then maybe even touch on projects?
Sure. So some programs like the high school diploma program and college degree programs may have papers or essays that need to be submitted for some classes. This is very similar to schooling that you might have experienced before. Papers do make up a big component of education. Instructions for papers are usually included at the end of the study guide before the paper. Once you've written your paper, please proofread it, make any edits. You'll upload your document to the student portal for grading. And there are tons of resources in our Learning Resources Center for paper writing. We have blogs on paper writing. So please feel free to check those out if you struggle with those. You can also contact your instructor if you hit any roadblocks with your papers. Some programs and classes will also have projects that need to be submitted. For example, in a Microsoft Excel class, you may have to create a spreadsheet using the guidelines provided and submit that. Like papers, projects are submitted online through your student portal. So, again, like we've said this in Facebook Lives before, and you guys know this, like we want to provide a quality education where you're actually learning the stuff and you're prepared when you go on to college, or you're prepared when you go on into your career. So these exams and papers and projects are ways to make sure that you understand what you've learned, and for you yourself to know what you need to work on, what skills you still need to master. If there's something that comes easily to you and it's an exam that you pass on the first try, or a paper where you do really well, then that could be an indicator that that's a skill or an area within your field where you're amazing. And that could be a signal that that's something that you should explore further. So I know they sound intimidating, but they're really not that bad. And they are an essential component in making sure that your learning experience is quality and you're getting out of it what you need to get out of it.
That's a really good point about taking the parts of your program that you like excel in and, exploring them further. I think that that's something that's not talked about enough, is that obviously, you're taking your program to get some kind of job, but within a lot of like different careers, there are specific things that like you can specialize in or hone in on, and use the time of taking these tests and seeing where you thrive to kind of help you decide those things, in advance. So it's a really good point, Lauren. I like that mentality.
So speaking of things that you might get good grades in, or find, the areas where you need to improve, Jess, can you tell us how grading works at Penn Foster?
Absolutely. So we use a number letter grading system for all Penn Foster programs. Completed exams and assignments will receive a number grade, and then once the class is completed, you'll be assigned a letter grade for the whole course. So very similar to, your standard grading practices. Passing grades and grading in general works a little bit differently depending on what kind of program you're taking. If you are taking our high school program, the high school grading, a 65 is considered the minimum passing grade and is equivalent to a letter D. In the career program grading, similar to the high school grading, you'll generally need a minimum of a 65 to pass your exams and classes. However, there are some career programs and certificates that require you to earn at least a 70 to pass the overall program. So make sure you keep that in mind. 65 is kind of a golden number for those two, but some of them might be a little bit different. College level grading, the grading for our college level courses is a little bit more complicated. We still use a number letter system, so you'll receive number grades for your exams and assignments, including any proctored exams you might take. The letter grade for each course is calculated by counting the average of your lesson exam grades as 2/3 of the course grade and the proctored exam as 1/3. So you know how before when we were talking about the proctored exams and we said how they function sort of like a final. Same thing here in terms of grading. Everything else you do throughout this, throughout the program will account for 2/3 of the course grade, and that proctored exam accounts for 1/3 of the whole grade. So keep that in mind. Letter grades are then converted into a quality point average, or a QPA, ranging from 0 to 4.0, with a 4.0 being the best. To pass your exams and earn your degree, you'll need at least a 70 in your classes and an overall QPA of a 2.0. So QPA, kind of sounds very similar to your standard GPA, and uses the same kind of number, 0 to 4. So a little bit different in the college level grading than the career and the high school. So if you do have any questions about any of that, just keep in mind that you have the resources, you have student services, you can call and get all of that information given to you again if you need it, because I know it's a lot.
So going through that, then I think it might bring up questions for some of you of what happens if you hit a subject or you hit an exam where you don't do so well. Not every subject will come as easily to you as others, and that's okay. That's normal. But one awesome thing about Penn Foster is that if you fail an exam within your program, or even if you're just simply not satisfied with your grade and you know that you can do better, you'll have the opportunity to retake that exam within 30 days, which is pretty awesome because that's not an option that comes with a lot of other types of schooling. After you retake an exam, we honor whatever the highest grade was. So for example, if you took a test and got a 70 and then retake it and get a 90, 90 is your final grade for that lesson, which is pretty great. If you fail a class, you may have to retake the class over again in order to graduate. So usually you'll retake any failed courses at the end of your program. That's obviously, failing a class is more of an extreme situation. That's why we have these exam retakes. So you could hopefully avoid that situation before you get to the end of the class. But you will have the option to take the class over again if you do really struggle with that subject.
Yeah, I think that the fact that not only can you retake the test within 30 days, but that we will honor whatever the higher of the two grades is. So if you take it the first time and you don't get a great grade, or you don't get the grades you want, and you take it again, and by, some stroke of whatever, you do worse on the second one, we will still honor the first one, even though you took the second chance to improve your grade. So we really want to see you guys, do your best and give you all of the opportunities to pass these classes and pass these exams, just so you can keep going further and continuing all of that great education and good stuff like that. So now that we kind of got through what happens if you fail, the grading, all of those things, now we're going to give you the fun stuff, which is our tips and tricks to be a successful test taker. A huge benefit of online classes with Penn Foster is that the majority of your exams are self-paced and are not timed, which means you can take the test when you're ready and take as much time as you need to answer each question, which I also think is really nice because, Lauren, as you know, when you're in school, if you're in an in-person school, you have a period of, 55 minutes or 50 minutes, and you go in to take your test and you have that much time. So you might finish quicker, but if you feel like you don't have enough time, you're kind of out of luck. So that's definitely one of my things that I think is really great about Penn Foster tests.
I think that applies to studying as well. I remember being in high school and I was really into the drama club, and I also had a part-time job. And whenever it was like the week before the show, we would be in rehearsals all night. So that was a week where I knew if I had any tests, I was going to either fail or just rely on the information that I learned during class. But I knew for a fact I would have absolutely no time to study. And that was so disheartening because I knew that I could have done better if I had any time to study for those exams, because it wasn't an issue with my ability to learn the material. It was just that I didn't have time to prepare. And I think that, we're all busy. Like, you guys that are watching, you probably have jobs or families or passions and hobbies that you're interested in. And it might just be that you have like an abnormally busy week where you cannot study, you can't dedicate the time that you need to master the materials. So you're not facing that pressure that Friday, it's test day, ready or not, it's test day. There's no ready or not, which is really nice. Like, you could take the time to prepare on your terms and know that you're ready and confident with every exam that you take.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice way of thinking about it. There's no ready or not. You always have as much time as you need to study, and you have as much time as you need to take the test, which is awesome. But building strong test-taking skills and habits can help you during your exams for sure. So some tips to become a successful test taker include studying ahead of time. Obviously, that sounds like common sense, but While there are no specific test dates or due dates, it's a good idea to have a goal date in mind for when you want to take the test. Once you have a goal date, you can plan out your studying and how much time you think that you're going to need. Even though exams are open book, you still want to avoid cramming or studying last minute before you take the test. Studies show, you can look it up anywhere, Google it, look it up on TikTok, whatever. Cramming does not always work. More times than not, it doesn't work. So study a little bit each day leading up to your test, review your notes, and go over your study guides. I think too, another good tip in terms of that is, giving yourself a goal date. But even if you give yourself a goal window of 3 days and you're like, okay, I want to have this test done by between Wednesday and Friday of next week. So if it ends up being Friday, you're still hitting your goal and you're not giving yourself that hard, rigid line. So, because things come up and you just never know. So that's one tip from us. Another tip that we would suggest is taking your tests in a quiet space. To make sure you do your best on the test, it's important that you're not distracted. So make sure to take your test in a quiet space by yourself so no one bothers you. This is something we talk about and we've talked about in other Facebook Lives, and we know that that's not always an option if you, live at home and you have, your kids or your family and things like that. One of my favorite things to recommend is always, a public library will always have those quiet rooms that you can go and do your tests or your studying in. A lot of times too, if you contact your local library, you can even reserve an hour or two in a specific room that's just you, these 4 walls, and your study materials or your test. So always a resource that you can look into for things like that.
Absolutely. Even, your local coffee shop, even if there's a little hustle and bustle, it's not people that are talking to you. If you go somewhere nobody knows you, at least it's not people bothering you. So that could be another great place to go. And you can sip on a nice coffee or tea or whatever you want to treat yourself to while you're studying, which is pretty cool. I can give some other tips. The next one is to ask for help before you get to the test. If you're struggling with a lesson or a subject, do not wait until you take the exam and maybe don't do as well as you expected to get help. If you know that it's stuff that's just not coming easy to you naturally, you can get help from your instructors through your student portal so that when you get to the exam, you're not frustrated or feeling bad about yourself because you don't have that mastery yet. Your instructors are there to help with that. And all of that being said, try not to stress as much as possible. Even though the exams are self-paced, they're not timed, they, of course, are still tests. There's going to be an element of stress that comes with them, but try not to hype yourself up too much or worry too much before taking your exam. They are open book for the most part. You have a time to do them on your own terms, so you could, prepare yourself to do well and avoid a lot of that. It's okay if you fail. You can retake those exams within 30 days. So there's a lot to kind of help you avoid that gut-wrenching feeling of dread that comes with a lot of exams. And I will give a shout out to a way to give yourself a little study break, which is by watching our TikToks, because we are now on TikTok, which you can see Jess's face there. Jess, do you want to tell everybody how to enjoy our great TikTok content?
Absolutely. So we're finally there. I'm sure that all of you who watch our Facebook and our Instagram were wondering, when is Penn Foster going to get on TikTok? And we're finally there. You can find us at the handle Penn_Foster, where we'll be uploading some more great content like this, giving you those test taking tips and tricks. Also some fun stuff. You'll see this mug there. And just give us a follow and we'll be giving you some more great content on another great platform, which is always great. And like Lauren said, great way to break up your studying or give yourself a little break, as we all know, going down the TikTok rabbit hole. So be sure to follow us there.
And if there's anything that you want to see from us, any types of motivation or questions answered or whatever it may be, we're definitely open to hearing from all of you. So drop that in the comments, send us a message. We read and see all of it. So let us know, and maybe we could make something based on your recommendation, which would be pretty cool.
Well, this was a lot of content. I feel like we covered a lot, but all really important stuff. I hope that if nothing else after this, you guys take away that you know a little bit more about how you take the tests at Penn Foster, and it helps you kind of take a deep breath and realize that it's all going to be good. You're going to do great. Just, you know, study your best, give yourself the grace to, you know, take a test. If you don't do great, you can take it again. We just want to make sure that you guys are confident before you go in so that you can thrive in your programs. So hopefully we gave you some good info today.
Good luck, everybody, with your courses. Enjoy the fall. Contact us if you need anything, and good luck on your exams. Thank you so much for watching.
We'll see you
Bye,
next time.
everyone. See ya.